What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle. In this video, it's Friday, August 2nd. We're going to be talking about the LA Rams 2024 fantasy football projections. If you guys are new to this series, we're finishing up with the NFC West here. I've covered all the other divisions and all the teams. Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers left. What I do in these videos is we go about 15 to 20 minutes, and I'm going to just look at the 2023 numbers for each team. And then we'll talk about the QBs, running backs, receivers, and tight ends, and I'll show you guys my projections for the 2024 season. And I just want to note that these are preliminary projections. Like, I'm going to be continuing to tweak these throughout August, but I feel pretty good about them being a baseline projection. And if you guys are at all interested in seeing these projections for yourself, you guys can go to thefantasyfellowship.com. I'm running a promo, $7 this month for the August special. Gets you access to my projections, my rankings, my cheat sheets, articles, and more. So check it out. But let's get into it. 2023 review. The Rams, man, they finished 2023 as like one of the hottest offenses in the league. You also have Aaron Donald retiring from 2023. So that is a huge downgrade for their defense, which could actually, if they struggle a little bit stopping the run and things like that, they could run less plays, but they could also have to throw more, later in games as they're playing from behind. So 10-7 last year. The percentage was not great. We did see Matthew Stafford miss some time last year, and they tried Carson Wentz and Brett Rypien a couple times for some games here. But Stafford himself overall played pretty strongly, and he got better as the season went on. But as a team, 583 passing attempts, about 62% completion percentage, 4,300 yards on the dot, 7.38 yards per attempt, a nice touchdown interception ratio of 26-13, and they ran the ball. They ran the ball the most in the Sean McVay era going back to 2017. 477 rushing attempts, 2,045 yards, which was the second most. That was a Todd Gurley season back in 2018. And then 18 rushing touchdowns, 4 fumbles. On offense, this was one of the best years of the Sean McVay era. It was actually the third best years in terms of total yards output. It was the fourth best yardage output. Goff had 2 really nice seasons back here. But overall, it was a really strong season for the Rams. They battled some injuries. We know Cooper Kupp had the ankle injury to start the year. Kyren Williams missed 5 games himself. But overall, Matthew Stafford was solid. He could do a little better, though. He was 62.5% completion percentage, just under 4,000 yards, but I like the 7.61 yards per attempt. And then the 24-11 interception touchdown ratio is fine. And we know he doesn't offer much as a rusher, but overall, he was solid. And he did, kind of struggle at the start of the year. But when Kupp came back, you have Puka, Kupp, and a couple other weapons there. The offense looked like a top 10 offense in the NFL. At running back, They had Kyren Williams as a bell cow back. They let go of Cam Akers early in the year. They tried these weird Darrell Henderson, Ronnie Rivers, Royce Freeman in Kyren's absence, and those guys were fine. Like, they were serviceable. Like, at times last year, I was starting Darrell Henderson or Royce Freeman in a zero running back build. But when Kyren was healthy, he was the bell cow back. Absolute league winner last year down the stretch. 228 attempts. 1,144 yards and 12 rushing touchdowns. He was also pretty lethal as a receiving back here with 3 touchdowns. And then receiver, man, I don't need to tell you much about Puka Nacua. He was a league-winning waiver wire pickup last year, almost 1,500 yards receiving, only 6 touchdowns. So he can improve that. Even if his receptions, targets, and yards come down, he can still boost his points with some more touchdowns. And then they did like him on some carries here, 12 for 89 yards. Cooper Kupp, again, battled injuries throughout the year. Still ended up putting a solid season. He was like a low-end wide receiver 2 for most of it. He did kind of trail off at the end of the year, but he did have some banger games here and there. 59 catches, 737 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I think he played, 10, 11, 12 games, something like that. And then the real note here at receiver 3, Demarcus Robinson took over at the end of the year. He was the clear wide receiver 3, and we'll be projecting him so this year as well. And then tight end, man, Tyler Higbee was having an okay year, ends up getting hurt. We're not sure if we're going to see him back this year. They tried a little Davis Allen and Bryson Hopkins at the end, but overall that tight end room is going to get reworked this year. So 2023 review, man, I think there's a lot to be excited about with this Rams entering 2024. They didn't really add a lot of new players here. They brought in Jimmy Garoppolo as QB2. They did draft Blake Corum from Michigan, who is the clear RB2 here for Kyren Williams. And then they added Colby Parkinson as tight end to be their starting tight end, I think, over Higbee while Higbee recovers. So let's get into the 2024 portion of the show. Let's start with quarterbacks. I have the Rams being healthier this year, more passing attempts, more passing numbers, a little bit more passing attempts, 595, 65.55% completion percentage, and almost 4,500 passing yards. I have the yards per attempt going up just as Puka, Kupp, Kyren. I'm hoping these guys stay healthier. And then I think Demarcus Robinson's a good upgrade at wide receiver 3. And then a touchdown interception ratio of 28-14. Stafford, I gave him, basically 15, 16 games here. I gave Jimmy Garoppolo maybe a game and a half, actually. So 560 passing attempts for Stafford, about 66% completion percentage. I expect that to go up with healthier receivers to throw to. 4,265 yards, a healthy 7.62 yards per attempt, which was kind of where he was last year, and then 27-12 interception ratio for him, and just a few rushing yards and a touchdown. He'll get that every now and then. But I like Stafford this year. I don't like him because he can't run the ball. I like him as like a solid super flex QB2 option, someone that you could pull out and say, yep, I'm going to get my 16 to 18 points out of Stafford. Hope for that 300 passing yard game with 2 or 3 touchdowns. Now, my projections, he comes out to QB 20, and he's kind of in this tier of like Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, these aging quarterbacks that have awesome passing stats, but they just don't run the ball. So that's a firm tier for him to be in for me. Again, a low-end QB2. I don't think you're going to draft him in a 1 QB redraft league, but I do want to maybe look for him in a super flex league, as I think he's going to throw the ball a lot. He's got great weapons. And it's a really good offense this year. So we'll move on to the running back position. And I know everyone is nervous about Kyren Williams staying healthy. They drafted Blake Corum, who was a beast at Michigan. I think they still want to give Kyren Williams the bell cow role. Sean McVay has always done this bell cow role. And maybe we see Blake Corum a little bit more used than a normal RB2 would in the McVay system, just to keep Kyren healthy, as this team hopes to go to the playoffs and they hope to make some noise and make another run at a Super Bowl. But I still have Kyren Williams being the lead back here. 255 carries, 1,205 yards, 9 rushing touchdowns. And then I have him improving as a receiver, 37 catches, 45 targets, 270 yards, and a touchdown there. He scored a lot of fantasy points last year, 253 total points to be exact. I have him at 242. I think he's still a low-end RB1, but I do have to advise a little bit of caution, just because if they do use Blake Corum more, that could take a little bit of the volume off Kyren's plate, and also just like the injury concerns. He did miss a couple games last year, I think 5 games in total. So we need to see that he can hold up for a full year before I fully project it. But any week that he's healthy, he's got the upside to finish as a top 5 back, depending on the volume in the game script. So I like Kyren. And I also like, if I need an RB3-4 on my bench, I'll grab Blake Corum. Just again, we know Kyren has had some trouble staying healthy. And we know that Corum is a highly touted back from Michigan who handled a lot of work and a lot of volume over the years there. And he's just a good all-around back. I have him going for 105 carries, 465 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. And then I have him getting some work as a receiver here, 23 catches, 33 targets, 170 yards, and a touchdown. It sounds like his training camp's going good. They are noting that Kyren is still the bell cow lead back, but we do have to take into account Blake Corum maybe being involved a little bit this year. And then definitely like if you told me Kyren Williams gets hurt today, like where are we drafting Blake Corum? We're drafting him probably, as like a top 15, 16 running back. That's probably where he jumps up. So for me though, I have Kyren at RB14 in full PPR projections. I do have Blake Corum down here as RB45. So a guy, again, you can just pull him on your bench and see what happens. He's going to be a coveted bell cow handcuff back style there for you. So I like both guys. And then they still have Ronnie Rivers there, Zach Evans, Boston Scott, just some footnotes here for us. I did give Ronnie Rivers 45 carries, which seems a little bit too much. So I might take some of those numbers and boost Kyren and Blake Corum. So maybe that gets Kyren up to like RB12, maybe a little bit Corum gets him to RB40-ish, something like that. But I'll play with those numbers later. The wide receiver position here, which I think is the best thing to draft, whether it's Puka or Cooper Kupp. Puka is going to continue to be the lead guy, I think, in this offense. He's just the young, spry chicken. Kupp's getting up there in age. Puka Nacua also gets volume as a rusher. I have him at 15 carries, 105 rushing yards, and a touchdown. And then as a receiver, I'm locking in 97 catches, 150 targets, just under 1,300 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Like Puka is deserving of a low end first round pick. I think in best ball, he goes like 9, 10, 11 in that range. In your redraft leagues, though, you can get him round 2. And if you want to start your draft with, a running back and then say, I'm going to hope for Puka Nacua round 2, early round 2, you can go JT Puka, you can go Gibbs and Puka, something like that could work. But to get Puka as your wide receiver 2 would be a huge positional value for your draft. And then Cooper Kupp, man, like he's not going away. The training camp reports that I read, it sounded like Kupp was busier with targets than Nacua. So like there's a chance where Kupp is still the alpha here, but we do have to consider his age, potentially missing some games, things like that. I have him at 82 receptions, 125 targets, just over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. So he's like a really sweet wide receiver 3 that I think can perform as a wide receiver 2 for you. And then I want to note Demarcus Robinson, man. I need to get his receptions up. I got him at 54 catches, 90 targets, 705 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I think I'm off with the math there. I think I need to get him up to like maybe 60 catches. But he is the clear wide receiver 3. He's running as the 3 with the ones. He's fully hopped Tutu Atwell, who's kind of a footnote here. And I think any week that the Rams are healthy, like they're just going to hammer this 3 wide receiver set. And McVay's offenses are nice for projecting because we know he's going to use 1 lead back, 3 wide receiver sets, and 1 tight end. So he's very doesn't use a lot of guys. He doesn't rotate a lot of guys. So I think Demarcus Robinson's an excellent late-round flyer in best ball drafts. We'll note Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington's having a nice camp, and Tyler Johnson down there as well. But let's see where these receivers end up ranking here. I have Puka Nacua, wide receiver 7. And that still feels a little bit risky. I think I'm taking A.J. Brown over him. I might move A.J. Brown up in the projections. But Nacua, still a top 10 receiver option for me. And Cooper Kupp is down here at wide receiver 26. Again, I mentioned he's got wide receiver 2 upside, but I think he's best used as a wide receiver 3 on your team. And then Demarcus Robinson down here, wide receiver 66 or 65. Just a guy to note for best ball leagues, dynasty stashes, maybe something like that could be of use. But we'll finish up with the tight ends here. And this one's messy just because I don't trust Tyler Higbee's injury. It sounded pretty serious. He's going to be on the PUP list to start the year. We might not see him until November. Like, we have to wait and see this. So they added Colby Parkinson, and they like Davis Allen. And it sounds like we're going to see some more 2 tight end stuff out of the Rams this year. Jordan Rodriguez for the Rams has been talking about this a lot. And you're seeing it a lot in Rams camp right now. And they like Colby Parkinson and Davis Allen. I do think Parkinson is a better blocker between the 2. And he's still a pretty good receiving tight end option. So I expect him to be the lead tight end, but Davis Allen's still going to get some work. I have 35 receptions, 50 targets, and 375 yards for Colby with 3 touchdowns. And then Davis just getting a little bit of work there. 18 catches, 185 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Maybe something becomes more clear here, and Colby Parkinson becomes like the late-end tight end that you want to kind of circle in your drafts. But for now, I think we're just going to ignore this because it does sound like they're going to use 2 tight ends, and that position might be kind of spread out a little bit. So for me, I guess we'll just show you where I have these tight ends real quick, and then we'll get into the final thoughts. But Parkinson's tight end 28. Go farther down the list here, and you got Davis Allen, tight end 42. So in best ball leagues, I do take shots on Colby real late as my tight end 3, but I don't think it's a position that's going to matter too much for fantasy this year. So final thoughts on the Rams, man. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think they're a 10-11 win team. They're probably a playoff team this year, assuming everything goes right. We do have to watch that defense, though, with no Aaron Donald. I want to see them continue to play well on that side of the ball. But I like the offensive line additions. I like Matthew Stafford back here. It sounds like he's having a good training camp and he's having fun. You have a really good 1-2 punch with Kyren and Corum. Puka and Kupp obviously are a great duo, and I think you're going to see some Demarcus Robinson sprinkled in here and there. So I like this offense. I think they're targets on the Rams here, and you want to try and grab one. If you can't get Puka round 1, maybe consider Kyren. I know Kieran's an injury risk, but man, you can get him round 3, perhaps, round 2, perhaps, and you can always draft some depth to secure him and make sure you have points at the running back position. But otherwise, Kupp is a good value this year too. So draft some Rams. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments. I want to thank you. Appreciate you guys so much for hanging out with me for 14 minutes here as we talk about some Rams projections. But go to the comment section. Let me know what your favorite Rams are to draft. Let me check out I'm going to put a link down there for more of the 32 team projections. Check out some of those if you haven't. Check out thefantasyfellowship.com. We'll see you in another video. Peace.